The Cardi girls, we're Cardi girls. I'm gonna say what we want. The Cardi girls, singing from the front. The Cardi girls, our mouths are our guns, and we here and fighting, cause it has to be done. We're gonna say what we want. The Cardi girls, singing from the front. The Cardi girls, our mouths are our guns, and we here and fighting, cause it has to be done. We're gonna say what we want.
Break your friends like
Cardi girls, singing from
it's like a bit of a free-for-all, isn't it, really? What you
I think there's an assumption that
for a while now, Jodie, while we talked about something this week.
girls.
Yep, absolutely.
We're gonna say
That's
what we
the
want.
Tucker
The
Carlson,
Cardi girls. We're singing from the front. The Cardi girls. Our mouths are our guns, and we here and fighting, cause it has to be done.
I'm joining in tonight. We should redo that with AI. Do an AI video of you two.
An
Could
AI.
you could remove my jowls if you
And the
I can
wrinkles.
remove whatever you want.
Can you get and change the hair colour? Maybe make it long.
make my eyes a bit bigger.
Sure.
Hey, let's do that one night.
Yeah, I'll do it. We're doing it now. It's not taking very long. Anyway, we should talk tonight. Do you want to let people know, Kay, what we're doing tonight?
Yeah, well, I just think it's time that there's been a lot of, should it come out, shouldn't it come out, some truth about what happened with, the tragedy, and it should never have happened. It should never have happened. And I'm sure with this truth coming out, they might see how it did happen. I don't know whether there'll be a follow-up yet. We're not sure, but this is the beginning. And there's two major truths that come out of this if people haven't seen it. So, Susanna, you'll be really interested in it because
Yeah, no, I have deliberately not watched it so that I can.
No, it's
there's two major
my
truths
reaction.
that matter,
Yeah.
if nothing else. So let's
So
see.
are we going to just watch it, or are we going to stop it and comment?
I reckon just watch it. You reckon?
Okay.
Watch it, and then seeing how much time there is afterwards. You want to come back, you can have a chat about it then. That's probably the best way.
And let's remember, if people remember who the face of the person in it is, because he has been on our show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. See you in a
that'd
bit.
be great. Okay.
Hi guys, my name's David Armstrong. I've been asked to speak about the Dezi Freeman incident on the 26th of August by the property owners of where the shooting occurred up in Popunka. Andrew and Rebecca Swift attended the Living Free Festival a couple of days before this occurred, and I briefly met them there, and then they've reached out afterwards. The main reason that they've reached out to me is that they don't have trust in the mainstream media, especially with all the lies that have been put out and all the conspiracies that have been put out by all different people. I went up to the property approximately 7 or 8 weeks after the shooting. Rebecca and Andy had been back on the property for a couple of weeks, but no one had actually been down and tidied up or had a look at the site where it all occurred. So we went down and we filmed some information there. And Andy, who's the property owner, he was actually there as an eyewitness on the day. So he's the only adult that's outside of the family and outside of the police who was an eyewitness, and he tells his story directly to me. I've had the opportunity to meet other family members, other friends, and hear different parts of the story. And this is the other side of the story that hasn't been told. And so The reason that we're going to tell this is to make sure that the untold part of the story that leads up to all of this is told accurately, and the people that know the situation best can share their story without having to use mainstream media who have lied and continue to put out false information the whole way through. There's a lot of information that is really difficult to share. It's a complex thing that's gone across many years that's built up to this situation. No one that I've spoken to has suggested that Dezi did not kill the two police officers on that day. It's more the events that led to this. Was it preventable? Are there other people that have blood on their hands? And I think after seeing this myself and having a look at all the information, I think that there should be a full investigation as to how this all occurred and could it have been prevented. So this is the information. We're going to release it across several parts. The first part being the eyewitness of Andrew, who was there on the day, or Andy, who actually helped a police officer who was injured, and a range of different things. So it'll be his story as we go around the property. The reason we've held off on sharing a lot of this information is based on the police harassment and the media lies and their harassment as well. A lot of the community up there have been scared to share the information that's going to be shared over these next few parts, and their concern has been valid from what I've seen. Some of them have had their houses raided in quite horrific situations that they've gone through, and a lot of them have got a lot of trauma based on the events that have occurred. The information that's been shared to me, I'm very honoured that they've entrusted me to share this information, and we'll be telling it as truthful and honestly as we can. All right, Andrew.
Alrighty.
Dave.
G'day, Dave. Good
Nice.
to meet you.
Nice to finally meet you.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, you're the property owner here.
Yeah, my wife and Rebecca own the property.
Yeah.
And we've been here for about 8 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a pretty quiet sort of place.
Magic property.
Yeah, it's pretty beautiful, pretty blessed to live and work on a piece of land like this.
And so you've been here for about 8 years, you said?
Yeah, 8 years. We'd been looking for a block of land to, just do a bit of organic farming and sort of be a bit of a place for community to gather and all of the rest. So it's sort of been a bit of a purpose or a dream of ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got a few people that have been staying on the property, and the Freemans were... What?
Yeah, the Freemans with that. We also have a woofing arrangement. So, people can come and do a bit of work on the property, sort of a labour exchange type of thing. And initially, the Freemans came here about 3.5, 4 years ago. We've, to do a little bit of work, but they had no place to live at the time either. So initially they just came with a bus that Dezi had built with his brother. And they parked that here, and then they were not able to get a place. They had to move out of their rental place. So they ended up staying here. Originally it was going to just be short term until they found somewhere else to live. But, they ended up being here for 4 years.
Yeah. And you've known Dezi for a while, yeah?
Yeah, I knew Dezi back in the 90s. I grew up in the area, and Dezi spent a bit of time sort of doing a lot of photography around here and doing buffalo stuff. And we sort of connected on sort of, I was a bit arty, I suppose, and Dezi was a bit creative with his photography, and we both spent time up the bush doing different things, but we sort of connected on that sort of the nature or the bush type stuff. So I knew sort of Dezi in the background among, living in a small country town, you sort of tend to get to know everyone. So yeah, we just have a chat together, and it's just a familiar sort of person that I knew and always sort of said g'day to.
And so on the 26th of August, there was a major event here, which you were a witness to, and we're going to go around the property and we're going to have a look, and you're going to share a little bit of information that may not be well known or publicly known as to what occurred in that time, and share a little bit of information on what you know about Dezi and Marley and the family.
because I've been away, then I thought, okay, about 9:30, I went into the office to check the emails, and then got a call from Marley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll head down. So you were in the office at the time,
Yes, yeah.
and you'd been up at the Living Free Festival.
Yeah, we've been up at the Living Free Festival where we met heaps of awesome people, including yourself, Dave, and yeah, we came back quite inspired because a lot of the speakers who were there really resonated with where we were coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, little did we know we'd be thrown in the deep end. A matter of 15 hours later, and coming back from the festival, all of this sort of took place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still pretty hard to get our heads around and come to terms with, because the effects of that morning still resonate, strongly with us and our families, but also the broader community as well. Yeah, but this is all part of the process of sort of trying to understand what happened and why it happened. Like I said, because it certainly wasn't something that we were expecting. Because the truth of what happened that morning, it was simple in my head at the time, but it sort of puts a totally different perspective on what actually went on the day from the media perspective. And no element of what went on that morning actually has really been put out by the media. And we've sort of been personally concerned that any truth that has gone out to that mainstream media has been distorted in ways which aren't necessarily reflective of any of the truth or what led up to the event and what happened subsequently. So yeah, it's been pretty important to get my part of the story out there, as simple as it is, because it opens up lots of different questions, about how things may have been handled and subsequently how it was portrayed by the mainstream media.
Yeah. So you've got a little office over here, which we're going to have a look at. So you were there on that morning, and then you got a call from Marley. You were unaware that the police had arrived?
Yeah, so I'd just been running around just doing the normal things, doing the firewood, checking water, and then trying to get back into work after being away for a week. So it's my little office just over here. This is our little power generator plant, backup generator and solar array here. I sort of like to have my office away from the house. Yep. So I do heritage work. I'm a heritage advisor, do graphic design and so on. And so I was sort of sitting here in my office, actually trying to look at how to pay a toll road in Sydney when we inadvertently took a toll road, and I was just on the line, and then Marley phoned at it's at 10 o'clock, and I by the time I fumbled around with the phone, I actually missed her call, so I called her back straight away, and she was obviously distressed, and she said, "Andy, come down to the bus. The police are here, and they've surrounded the bus, and they're trying to get in." So I grabbed my phone and went straight to the bus to try and see if there's anything I could do to help, Marley and Dezi, who seemed to be obviously under distress. And it was a cold morning, it was overcast, and I just grabbed my phone and went straight down there.
So that's probably the first narrative that's been put out there, is that there was cameras on the front of the property. Dezi was aware the police were coming and that he ambushed them. That's true or not true?
Yeah, no, that's definitely not true. When I did get down to the bus, the police had surrounded the bus. There was one police four-wheel drive in the paddock next door, and there was no
preempting of the police at
Yeah, not at all. And hearing that from the media on the first couple of days that Dezi ambushed the police, and knowing that it was almost a flip around. The police ambushed.
Yeah.
From what I could see, the police had ambushed the Freemans that morning.
Yeah, and he was inside the bus with Marley, his wife, and
2.5-year-old
two-year-old
son.
child.
Yep. So the three of them were in the bus. We joined directly to the Mount Buffalo National Park, and on our lower side, our boundary is on the Buckland River.
Okay. So Beck,
Hey, Dave.
nice to meet you again. So you're going to show us around the property as well.
Yep, we'll go for a walk and check it out. So
Yeah, so in the morning, it was probably only minutes after the police had got here. I was walking down through here, and I could see one police all driving paddock over there. It's parked on the other side of our fence in the neighbour's property, and I could hear the police moving around, and Freeman's inside the bus. Obviously distressed by what was going on. So as I got through this last row of Pajoas, I was trying to make a direct line as possible to get there as quickly as possible. So I got to here, and I could see some of the police at the front of the bus area, where there's an entryway under a sort of an awning that forms a sort of living area for the Freemans. And then I could see police running around, both police in uniform, but also plainclothes police. And they all had their jackets on with their cameras, and they all had sort of their sidearms on as well. So yeah, I just made a beeline to their entryway just to find out what was going on.
Yeah. Do you know if all their cameras were on?
Look, I noticed their cameras on because I saw a little red light flashing intermittently, and then there was a beep every now and again.
Yeah.
So their cameras, the ones I observed, definitely on.
Yeah.
Yep. And by this stage, I had my phone on, and I was filming as I was walking down. So I was just making sure I was recording as I approached the scene.
Yeah.
Just so that I sort of also had a record of what was happening and unfolding.
And the police have confiscated that footage?
Yeah, they've confiscated my whole phone, and I haven't been able to get it back at this stage. So the Freemans had their two vehicles, which we've just walked past, parked in front of the bus here. And it's a bit of a messy scene now, but Marley and the Freemans kept a really clean living space. They were quite proud of their living area. Dezi had done a little bit of landscaping, and they kept the area mown and very neat. Marley grew herbs and stuff, and Marley was a great cook. And so she kept a very neat kitchen. And one of the challenging things is hearing the media story about how the media broke into our property and took pictures of the place, and they showed the mess and implied that the mess was, a result of the unstable nature of Dezi, which was not the case, because the place was neat as a pin, and the mess that was created was by the subsequent searches by the police, under search warrant and or part of the initial search of Dezi. So what we're seeing is the mess left by the.
So this is fairly much, untouched since that event on the 26th.
We've Marley and us and other people have come to get things for Marley and the boys, personal items, and we've removed the two vehicles just in the last couple of days, only because there's going to be a big working bee here tomorrow, and we just wanted to create a bit of space just so that can happen. And so after 2 months, we can start cleaning up this space, because the police only removed surveillance cameras which were on that tree a bit over a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. So we've only really been able to feel safe in coming back to this place and start cleaning up sort of, in the last week or so, really.
And you guys stayed off the property for some time as well afterwards as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we didn't get back. We were, it was about 2.5 weeks before we could get back on.
Yeah.
You know, it was described, the police said it was a crime scene up until a certain point, up until Wednesday, the 10th or whatever it was. And so there was, when we weren't told that it wasn't a crime scene. So there's probably a period of about 24 hours or maybe a bit longer where the media knew that the place wasn't a crime scene, but we hadn't been told. And so the media came in and trespassed and took a heap of photos and video footage of, you know, the mess that was here. And that's when the story was portrayed that, you know, they lived in squalor and all of that sort of stuff.
So the police had access to the property unhindered for 2.5 weeks after that event to be able to undertake any of their investigations, do any subsequent searches of anything on the property, including your house as well.
We basically surrendered it to them for 2.5 weeks. I think at about the 2-week mark, we had started to ask, we had some requests in writing, could we please come back to grab some clothes and a few essential things, work-related stuff. But they'd said we couldn't come back, and they held that line firmly. Then when we discovered that the media had actually been in here without our permission, we put another letter in writing to them, letting them know that had happened. Why were the media allowed in here? We weren't. So I think it was actually about 48 hours from when the media probably came in to when they finally allowed us to come back in. So it was about 2.5 weeks when we got back. We didn't move back in straight away. We couldn't move back in straight away because of what had been done to the place.
So coming back to that morning, you've come down, Andrew, and then you've got to around here, or
Yeah, I came up to the doorway here. There were police here, and I said to the police, "You're trespassing unless you've got a warrant, and I want you to leave." And then that there's a whole lot of clamour going on, and my words really felt dwarfed by what was happening. There was a group of probably 5 police in at the front of the bus in here, and there were also, I could hear police trying to get in around the back of the bus, and then I could hear the Freemans trying to, under high anxiety, trying to sort of, you know, talk to the police and make some sense about what was going on. And then one of the police officers said that they do have a warrant, and they showed me a bit of paper. But the whole scene, I was in no state to sort of look at what the details of the warrant and take stock of the warrant and even understand the warrant. And even if I'd said this is not valid, there's no way I could have stopped. You know, there were about 10 police here. There's no way I could have stopped that. So then one of the police officers, I can't recall if he grabbed me, but he threatened to say that if I was to interfere with this police search or raid or whatever it was, that I'd be arrested. He may have grabbed me on the shoulders or not, but anyway, I just said to him that I'd remain as a witness, and I still continued filming. But I was sort of pushed back from this area. But I wanted to be a witness to what was going on because I could hear, you know, the Freemans under distress going on in the awning. So I then walked around and came in under the awning from the other way because I was blocked from being this way. So I walked down here. And so I came up to this side of the to here, and I could see the police trying to get into the bus. And I saw police officers with a crowbar here trying to, get the Freemans out of the bus, and they grabbed this log and they were trying to purchase with the crowbar, get leverage on the door to get into the bus. And so the whole time the brief time that I was here, I could see, the police trying to force open the bus, try to get the Freemans out of the bus. They were trying to serve this warrant on Dezi, and I could just hear Marley and Dezi and young Matt, this 2.5-year-old son, just totally stressed. But Dezi was really quite together, although heightened in anxiety about asking right questions. And at one point they held the warrant up to the window and they explained what the warrant was. And Dezi just was basically saying it was, not valid or a load of nonsense, and what was all this really all about. I then was asked to move. The police took me out of this space, and 2 officers accompanied me. So I think I went out around the back, and I sat around. This is probably after about 10 minutes, maybe after I got here. I was then escorted out, and then around, and asked to sit behind the bus for at least another 10 or so minutes.
Yeah. All right. So are we allowed to have a look in the bus or?
Sure.
Yeah. So they've busted their way in here. From media reports, they pulled out the glass here and jumped through. And then we don't really know too much about what occurred in here.
Other than that the Freemans were barricaded in here while the police were trying to get in, and they were trying to get in around all sides of the bus. So there was a group of about 5 at the door, but there are also police trying to, peer in windows and get in other windows and so on. So certainly a heightened sense of stress that the Freemans were going through while being surrounded, by police literally trying to break into this space.
Yeah.
With the 3 of the Freemans in here.
Yeah. And so I guess you heard gunshots from around the corner?
Yeah, so I was sitting around the back, and we can go around the back and I'll show you where I was sitting, but I was probably sitting around there for at least 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes before the first gunshots.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do we know where the police got shot at all?
We know that one was shot somewhere here.
Yeah.
But I didn't see any of this. And then there's another one was shot somewhere around there.
Okay.
The 2 that were killed here and there. And I'm not sure where the injured policeman was shot.
Okay.
And whether there were 2 periods of gunshots. There's the first one, and then maybe another 5 minutes later there was the second lot. I don't recall whether it was 2 or 3 shots in that first lot. And maybe 2 again, maybe 2 or 3 in the second group of shots.
So we don't know who fired first, and do we know if the police fired their weapons as well?
Initially, I thought it was the first group of shots I heard. Initially I thought it was the police, just because of the way they were behaving. Just aggressive. It just appeared aggressive. And so initially I thought it was the police, but then through listening to the radios, I realised it wasn't the police. So, just to get a sense of, the neatness of how they lived. It's pretty. Despite the mess made by the police, it's pretty organised. And they were sort of, house proud tenants. And although we didn't expect them to be here for as long as they were, for nearly 4 years. They did, respect their own living space and respect the surrounding area that we allowed them to, to stay at. Yeah. So again, despite what the media have subsequently said, this is a good, neat, camp setup. So, yeah. So on the day after I was removed from the kitchen area, awning their living area, I actually sat down here. There's a police officer there and another one there, and I was just holding my phone up, just so I could pick up the dialogue that was going on in the bus. But I was also filming the police officers while I had my phone up. So I was just, I don't know why, but I was just filming their faces. One of the younger female officers felt uncomfortable with that. I remember her putting sunglasses on. Whether she felt uncomfortable about the operation or uncomfortable about being filmed, I'm not sure. But so I was probably sitting here for probably 5 to 10 minutes. At one point, there was a heightened sense of anxiety coming from the bus. So I got up and I just wanted to help the situation or diffuse the situation. I got to here, and then one of the police officers sort of asked me to sit down again because there's still, the police are still trying to get into the bus. So I didn't want to get arrested, obviously, and I didn't want to cause any more trouble. So I came back and sat down and still continued filming. And then probably not long after that, there was a series of shots, maybe 2 or 3 shots. Immediately,
Could you hear Dezi at all yelling out, saying that he had a firearm and not to enter, or any of those sorts of things?
No, I didn't. I was here again. I was relying on the phone to capture the dialogue. I was sort of hearing that they were wanting to come out, but the police were still trying to force their way in. And it sort of seemed to have a bit of a stalemate situation. Yeah, so I didn't hear any sort of warning about firearms or anything. And had I, Dezi might have mentioned if he had a firearm, I then wouldn't have thought those initial shots were from Dezi. But just from the reaction of the police and then starting to hear on their radios, they couldn't account for the police officers. I realised that perhaps it was Dezi that had fired those shots. Yeah. And so after that first group of shots, we actually, one of the police officers I was with, we then went behind this shed up here and took cover, I suppose.
And where did you see the rest of the police go? Because there's a lot of questions around there being 10 police and then Dezi and Marley and the young child being able to leave the bus. Where were the rest of the police? Did they run after the first lot of gunshot?
Yeah, so after the first lot of gunshots, we all pulled back. So police officer I was with pulled back, and then a number of police then went up behind the shed up behind us up here. So that was after the first lot of shots. So I came and sat down here, and I remember squatting down here, and then I had a police officer here. I think I checked my phone to make sure it was still recording. I stopped and started, and then I was still holding my phone up. And I was watching the police up here behind the shed. Still this police officer here. And then I heard another shots. And I looked up and I thought, because you can't see much through here, but I thought I caught a glimpse of Dezi just then ducking back away. And so, and again, on the day, I don't fully recall. However, coming back to the scene, when I looked up or turned and saw Dezi, he must have tried to take a shot at that other police officer who was standing next to me. But again, I wasn't focused on that. And so there's just a single shot here that the police have recorded, which that wasn't there before.
So it's clear that's not a shotgun.
Yeah, definitely not a shotgun.
Yeah.
So that formed this, the second lot of shots, which happened, maybe about 5 minutes afterwards. And so when that happened, the police officer I was with and I then went up to all the other officers up behind the shed up here. And there was even more confusion and talk on the police radios. And it became clear that they were definitely still there were 2 officers that they couldn't account for.
Was there screaming or?
Not necessarily screaming, but there was confusion about who was in the bus and who was still in the bus, and whether the Freemans were in the bus or whether they were injured police bus. So at this stage, I stopped filming. I said to the police I was with, I'm going to call Marley and find out if she's still in the bus. So I then stopped filming and I called Marley, and she answered the phone, and I said, Marley, are you in the bus? Because I think just prior to that, no one was really trying to clarify people's positions other than through radios. So at one point I yelled out, Dezi, don't be a dick, just be calm or whatever. And then at another point I was yelling out, who's in the bus? Marley, Dezi, are you in the bus? Are you in the bus? And I was just trying to yell out amongst it all to get a verbal response, just to clarify what was going on. Because I didn't understand who was where, and the police didn't seem to understand. So I was trying to establish who was actually in the bus and where people were, so that we could, either attend to get medical help or not get medical help. And then I phoned Dezi, and Dezi answered, and I said, Dezi, are you in the bus? Where are you? And on one hand he says, I'm in the bus, and then in the other hand he says, no, he's down in the hazelnut or down at the huts or down in the paddock below. But he definitely wasn't with Marley. And then I can't remember whether I hung up or he hung up. And I was right next to the police still, and there's still confusion going on. I then said to one of the police officers, like, it was out of my control, I could not help the Freemans. So I gave the police Dezi's number so that they could at least try and communicate with Dezi and understand where he was, because I couldn't get an answer from him. And then, so I was up here by this stage. So I was making the phone calls from here, and there were groups of police behind the shed there. So I was, trying to establish what was going on in the bus, because the police didn't necessarily seem to know. And so then I then started talking to the police once I gave them Desi's number. Then we realised that there was injured police officers, or at least one injured police officer. So I said, okay, Well, the gate was locked. Our main gate was locked, which is up over in that direction, about 100, 150 metres away. I said, if someone's injured, we've got to be able to get an ambulance in. So I said, I'm going to go and open the gate so we can, get medical assistance. So I said to the police, okay, I'm going to open the gate, then I'm going to bring a vehicle back so that we can carry anyone injured and get them to an ambulance or get an ambulance here. So I then left on foot on my own, went up to the gate up there. The gate was locked and there's a PIN code to open it. And there were three police cars at the gate. I think they were unmarked police cars. And there were a couple of police officers there, maybe 3 or 4. And I said to the police, we've got someone injured. I need to open this gate so we can get an ambulance in or get medical help to, the injured police officers. And the gate's pretty temperamental if I'm pushing the keypads. So they were holding onto the gate, trying to force it open. I said, just don't touch it. Just let me open it. So I pushed the PIN code, rather open the gate. And then I said to the police, I'm just going to police up at the gate. I was going to get a vehicle to pick up the rescued officer, to pick up the injured officer. I stopped and saw my daughter at the house on the way. And then picked up a little farm Kubota side-by-side thing and then drove it back down here. And I drove it to that spot there. And then by the time I got back, the injured officer had been brought up to the shed. He was right here. And so when I came up with the Kubota, I saw that he'd been injured. He was wearing dark coloured pants, but you could tell they were all wet from blood from a gunshot somewhere down on his lower half. And I could tell because of his lower injury, I wouldn't be able to get him into the Kubota because it's sort of an upright vehicle. So I then said to the police, all right, I'm going to go and get a more suitable vehicle, and so we can get this guy in and get him to the ambulance. So I then drove the Kubota up to the far end, back to my office where my Hilux twin cab Hilux is parked. I had all my work gear on the back, all my survey gear, so I just pushed that onto the ground and then came back down to my Hilux. And I wound down my windows when I was coming back down, and I said to the police, I'm going to, because we didn't know where Dezi was, and if by chance he might take another shot, I then said to the police, I'm going to park the vehicle in such a way that we can load the injured officer on where he's protected. So I drove my vehicle here, and I got to a point where we could safely open the back door of the vehicle, and then I got out in front, ran at the back, and opened up the back of the vehicle and got into the back seat. And 2 police officers helped the injured officer to the back seat. And I said to the police, I'm just going to grab, or the injured officer, I'm going to grab you by your belt and your vest. And I lifted the injured officer into the back seat and then closed the doors. And then I came back around to the front of the vehicle. And at some point, because I've done first aid training, I said to the injured officer, I said, my name's Andrew. I've been trained in first aid, which is what they teach you to do. I said, what's your name? Just to establish, just create peace of mind in this injured police officer that he could trust me, establish trust. So his name was, how much pain you in, what's your level of pain? Explained he was injured, but his pain level wasn't super bad. And then I said to the other police officers here, I said, there's still cars blocking the road. I'm going to need those moved. I said, do you guys have UHF radio? Because I had UHF radio in a truck. I needed to be able to communicate with those police as I was getting this guy to the ambulance. They said, one of the police officers handed me a set of car keys. He said, these are the car keys for to the car at the gate. So I grabbed this set of police vehicle car keys, established trust with obviously all of them, and I got into the car with the car keys in the back, no other police officer, and then I drove. And I was talking on the way because I had to go for a bumpy paddock. I was just saying, look, I've got to put it in four-wheel drive. It's going to be a little bit bumpy, but I'll get you to the ambulance shortly. Drove across the pile of tiles and then up to the gate. And then at the gate, there were police at the gate. And I pulled off to the side and I've got my windows down and I'm sort of yelling out, I've got an injured officer in the car. I need these cars removed, these police vehicles removed, so I can get him to the ambulance. I got out of the car with the keys. I said something along the lines of, these are the keys for this front vehicle. Can you guys move it or I'll move it out of the way? They took the keys and they sort of fumbled around and moved the vehicles out of the way. Then I was able to get back in the car and drive down Rainer Track. There was a second lot of police blocking the road as I went down, and I was just yelling out of the vehicle, I've got an injured officer in my vehicle. I need to get to the ambulance. I'd been told by these police that there was an ambulance somewhere at the bottom of Rainer Track, so that's where I was heading. And then when I got down to the bottom of Rainer Track, I saw a couple of police vehicles down there and an ambulance. So as I drove and approached the ambulance, I was sort of signaling out the window that I was going to come around to the back of the ambulance so that we could load the injured officer onto the stretcher trolley, parked around the back in such a way that we could get off onto the trolley and into the ambulance. But I let the paramedics take over. I just moved my car seat forward so they could get in and get him onto the trolley. So once the injured officer was unloaded, I said to one of the police officers there that when I left here, I made it clear that I would come back, get any further. That I'd get any further injured officers back to the ambulance. And so I said that to the guys down there, and they said, hold on a minute. And then they came back and said, okay, we'll escort you back onto the property. So there's a police escort. Got halfway back up Rainer Track, and then the police stopped us. And then they said, look, can you just go back and turn around? So obviously I wasn't needed to come back to get anyone else out. Obviously they'd realised perhaps that the two other officers were deceased by that stage, and that there was no point at trying to get them to an ambulance or whatever. So I just met some police up at the gate where I had to turn around, and then I told them who was left on the property. And I said my daughter was at the house, and I was just giving some other details to the police. And then after I'd done that, I was asked to go back down to the bottom of Rainer Track, and then I was instructed to that I'd have to go back to the Bright Police Station to give a statement.
So obviously a pretty emotional, full-on situation for yourself, but it sounds like you were pretty calm and collected and in a place that was full of chaos. And that's certainly not what was put out in the media either. And I've heard nothing about this and the actions that you took on that day. I know that the media has put articles out about you guys and Beck yourself as well. But this is a very different story, and I don't like throwing around words like heroic, but it sounds like that were those actions on the day, and that your actions very much assisted the police and assisted Pete to get to help. And there was not a lot of clear heads helping in the same way. Is that an accurate representation?
It is, I suppose. I just, for whatever reason, responded, maybe because I was a property owner, maybe because I can work in difficult situations under pressure, but yeah, I just felt like I had a level of trust with the police officers that were here to be able to take control and to, you know, obviously once we realised that there were injured police officers, and I was away to be able to help, you know, the injured officer, that there was a level of trust, and there was also a level of distress amongst some of the younger officers here that, you know, that some of their colleagues had been shot. So I was able just to step into that set of circumstances and offer, you know, the assistance that I did do. It wasn't anything I'd planned to do, but it was just a set of circumstances that I probably fell into and was able to take responsibility of. I wasn't able to step between the Freemans and the police to start with and calm that situation, and I tried to do that. But I suppose in this instance where there was an injured officer who had to go to an ambulance, that was something I could take control of. So I did. Yeah.
Can I add, because you didn't say it, but I think you must have been pretty level-headed for that. There's an officer who got in the car with you to go back to the station afterwards as well.
Yeah, so after I went down to left the property for the last time for 2.5 weeks, and you know, there was more and more police were arriving by the minute. My eldest daughter, was giving a statement in her car to one of the police officers. I was asked to go back to the police station and give a statement. So I'm in my Hilux, which has got blood all over the back seat, and they allocated a senior constable to me, a local chap, to come to take him back to the Bright police station in my car so I could give a statement. And I sort of said to the police officer next to me, I said, look, you know, despite what's just happened and the stress of it, that he should feel okay about me driving back to Bright to give a statement. So he was my passenger. You know, I would have thought I would have been bundled into a police car and taken back to the Bright police station, but you know, I drove my car with a police officer next to me, you know, to give that statement. So yeah, that was just another, I saw it as a level of trust that they trusted me with another officer, you know, to go back to Bright. So yeah, it's just what happened.
And despite all of this, in the weeks after that, there was not necessarily the recognition of that trust. And I guess that's where it becomes a bigger police matter as well, but also some questionable actions by the police in how they treated you guys. And we'll sit down and we'll have a bigger discussion about that and get some more specifics. But it puts a little bit of context around what happened on the day and the relationship that you guys had with the police in trying to cooperate and assist the situation, which was obviously very traumatic and threw your lives from paradise here upside down. And it's obviously been traumatic for your whole family.
Yeah, so I suppose up until the point where I left to give a statement, I was, you know, fully, because of the severity of what happened, you know, obviously the police officers getting shot and injured, you know, that's a pretty big thing. I was more than willing to assist in any way that I could to get to the bottom of it all. But the sort of subsequent treatment by the Victoria Police after that, considering my role on that morning, sort of leaves a lot of questions for us as a family, but I suppose for the community in general as well.
So you can see a track straight down here and very quickly down to the river there. I think, one of the interesting conversations to have with this is, from what you're explaining, clearly there's blood on Desi's hands with the, Victoria Police, that there was 2 officers that are deceased, which is a terrible tragedy. And there was one that was injured, which you assisted. But I think what needs to be looked at is potentially what led up to that. And is there potentially blood on other people's hands as well that led up to this? Was this avoidable? What led up to the point where Desi felt like he had no other option? And, is there anything that we can learn from that in this situation?
Definitely, that whole morning raises so many questions that everyone should be looking to find answers to. And even from us personally, seeing how the Freemans were treated by the police leading up to that also there's lots of questions associated with that. And then, there's so many things that we don't know about with that relationship between the police and Desi and the Freemans that the whole thing could have, I just feel it could have been avoided, but it just, it just brings up so many unanswered questions and approaches. And just, just seeing the distress from the Freeman's point of view, but also seeing the distress on the day from the young police officers who I was with on that morning, and then subsequently in the Bright police station. What led to this horrible situation for both parties, for both sides? I felt like I could have intervened and offered some sort of peace that avoided, the tensions and stuff. But, like I was just put in a bad situation where things have been boiling for months, if not years, leading up to that morning.
So I think what's so obvious about this footage is that Andy was actually a hero on that day. He helped render assistance to the injured police officer. He drove him down in his vehicle down to the end of the track. He was given the keys to one of the police vehicles to move, and he also drove another police officer to Bright Police Station. On the day, he actually tried to de-escalate the situation, and he filmed it all on his phone. What's clear is that this property is not a compound training sovereign citizens as to what was put out in the media. It's an everyday farm in which they had people working and assisting on the farm, and the Freemans were part of that. What Andy does for work is heritage work for the government and other government organisations. He has a YouTube channel called The Heritage Rat, which you can see for over 20 years he's been releasing videos of the old gold mines and that sort of thing in the area. The police have threatened to lay charges for Andy on the day, and they've only just recently said that they're not going to be doing that. They've held that across their heads to, I think, avoid this story from coming out. There's a lot more stuff to come out from other people who've been interviewed up there in the last week or so that we've done that. and a lot more information regarding what led up to this event and the harassment that Freeman's had endured over the past 7 years. So stay tuned for the next part.
Well,
What are your thoughts?
Well, because we've got the real footage and not the one that was going around because we were worried it would be suppressed. It didn't show, did it, where the commissioner actually said, to the best of his belief, there was nobody else on the property.
Mm.
He made that statement.
I was watching the comments, the most comments, and we were saying this too. It's remarkable that the police allowed him to have so much of
free reign.
Free reign.
Free reign to drive the injured cop back, to give him the keys to a cop car, to, you know what I mean? The police are on there. They know Dezi shooting. They wouldn't know who else was. It just, I'm not saying it's not true, but there's things that are.
And there was enough police there to, if the numbers of police that Andy says were there, there was plenty of other police who could have driven their mate.
Yeah, I've just never known police to hand over power to a civilian. If there's so many cops, usually they just back away.
As you can see by Andy, he's a pretty down-to-earth, trustworthy, good guy.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think perhaps they could sense that because it's just the sort of person he was. I saw someone make a comment. No, I know firsthand. I've heard that story many, many times, and it's the same story every time. So trust me,
I don't think he didn't come across as a liar or making it up. It just seems extraordinary that
it just makes the story more and more wacky, though, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
It doesn't clear it up. It just makes it even more
strange. I mean, he didn't see Dezi shoot anyone. He heard shots. He didn't see. And how did Dezi get out? How did he get away? Like, if they were surrounding the bus, like it just nothing makes sense.
Yeah,
nothing makes sense.
And that hole in the shed, that wasn't a shotgun hole. That was a bullet hole. You know, I don't know, and a big bullet hole. Oh, I don't know. I don't want to speculate. It's really, really. Have you been following? They have played at other places. What's the feedback on it? Do you know?
I think it came out last Saturday morning.
Yeah.
I did get told, I'm not sure from a second hand, that a girl tried to release it onto TikTok and it got taken down as misinformation.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
TikTok, of all things.
Oh, no, TikTok banned a lot of stuff. Yeah. And we get banned there all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, the whole thing, it's so insane. And the police themselves, I hate to say it, the police, through their actions and their silence, are creating a legend out of Dezi. They're not suppressing it. They're coming out with all this pedophile stuff, and I've seen by the comments, everyone thinks, oh, that's bullshit. They don't believe it. So the only way they can, if they really want to come out, is to come out with the truth.
No.
Tell us what happened. That'd probably,
So somebody just said it's actually both the guys. Dave, he's from the Living Free movement. He was on our podcast last year, just before the Living Free weekend. You remember that? Mm-hmm. And then of course Andy with his Heritage Rat. So they're both really good guys.
Me. I'm with Ben Clifton.
Yeah, I'm with he's got no reason to lie.
More questions and answers. No, I don't
think
he's lying.
No, he's got no reason to. What benefit is it?
As if he's going to get any help from the police if he makes stuff.
Yeah, he's hardly going to get a medal of honour, is he? Like,
no, probably deserves it.
He deserves it, but he's not going. Yeah.
No.
No one's seen the raw footage, Catherine. Probably no one ever will, to be honest.
No, Catherine, this is about as close as you'll get because nobody can interfere with it. It's been done by Living Free, and they will hold it. So. Yeah,
this is We're never going to hear Marley's story because I'd say that they're holding something over her. I would say that they have said to her, shut your mouth or we're taking your kids.
That's right,
Yeah.
Jason,
Mm.
body cam footage would settle it once for
Well,
all.
at one-
The
yeah.
things that astounded me that
Mm.
if Andy's right, is that it's Andy, right? Is the shooting was 5 minutes apart. So he shot one. From what he's saying, Dezi shot one police officer. Then there was 5 minutes went by before he shot the other one.
Yeah, that
Which
makes no
is-
sense.
That's a
No,
huge
it's all.
gap. 5
Well,
minutes
there's
when
all.
there's a shootout would be a huge gap. And then there's even minutes later before he shoots the third. So that amazing. It almost forces the police to say, listen, why can't you let the people know?
No.
Give us something. Dezi's dead. You're not going to take him to court. You know, he's gone.
Well, there is the coronial inquest is on the 25th of May.
Okay.
So that will be, yeah. So that'll be, I mean, I don't know how long this could take.
Is
This
that going to
could
be
take
public?
2 years. Yes, apparently it is public.
Yeah.
Will they show the body cam footage there?
No, because it's only a directions hearing, I believe, when they'll decide what happens, like a special mention in a court case.
G'day, Adrian. There's a lovely
Yeah.
Adrian here. I guess we'll never know the real story. I hate to say it, but this is what I feel. You know, we'll never really know the real story. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No.
Well, Marley must know what's happened, but or maybe she doesn't. Maybe it all
No.
happened outside the bus. Maybe she was inside the bus holding the baby and.
Yeah. No, we'll never. There's a lot of surmising, and as you said, the police footage would show a lot. So, to wait and see. And he didn't hide under the bus for any help.
Even if it was the sad thing is even if it was he was according to Andy, Dezi was saying that's a bullshit summons, but he must have realized surrounded by 10 cops, it's time to give up and just open. Where are you going to go? You got your kids there, your wife there. No offense for me, I would have opened up. Okay, you know, even if it's a false charge, you got this. There's where are you going to go with a shootout?
But you're not realising that it wasn't the first time, I guess, for the harassment. So.
Yeah, I understand that, but where are you going to go shooting cops? What do you think's going to happen?
Oh no, that's silly.
Yeah,
You honestly think
allegedly, that's right. That's got to be.
And he was an intelligent man, wasn't he? There was no question that he wasn't.
Smart. He was.
So,
yeah, they didn't like what he would take them into the courts with, and they didn't address the issues that he would actually bring up. And I believe that's where a lot of it started.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that. But you know, I have a country full of people that are dealing with, you know, trumped up charges and bullshit charges, and they fight it as best they can.
Yeah, but that's the problem, Michael. You don't want to fight it. You don't need to defend what you've done. You need to call out what they're not doing, and that becomes the issue.
I get it, but this is not going to do anything.
No.
I mean, over here now, because of it, I'm in WA. If you post anything at all, one guy in Bridgetown the other day said he was on his farm and then 6 cops turned up, all heavily armed, and all he'd done, they took his guns away. All he'd done was like a Rod Cullison post. That's all he said he did. And that's how and this is all because of Dezi, what Dezi's done. So basically now,
well, they're using Dezi as the poster boy for this sovereign rubbish, which is total rubbish.
Yeah.
It's a made-up answer. They might as well call you whatever you want to call you. You know, it's just.
Yeah, and this still gets crazy. How did he escape with all those police everywhere?
Exactly.
I mean, the only thing that makes sense is that everyone panicked, but he doesn't sound like people are panicking at all. You know, so I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see when it finally comes out. I mean, it's going to fascinate everyone for years. So if the police just want to make it just an incident, they have to come clean. That's it. Otherwise, Dezi's going to be our Ned Kelly, which is
it might be like the Woods report. They might put it away for how many years? Never to be seen again.
But it won't help them. It'll help the legend of Dezi. And it's I'm not saying there should be that, but that's what you're creating. You through not dealing with this, through not being truthful, through not just showing us and he's dead. Yeah, the process is just creating a legend.
Yeah, the truth.
The third guy who was shot, the one that Andy drove down to the ambulance. He's alive still, isn't he?
Yeah.
You can't tell me he doesn't know who shot him. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
That's right.
we have no one. Has anyone heard what he said?
Story though, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Mm.
Maybe he knows who shot him and he doesn't. Oh,
It's
I
hard
see.
to speculate here, isn't it? Because we're only working on what Andy just said. But
Yeah. I'm assuming that the police shot him, not Dezi. So
and Kelly was saying, even in the documentary, you can't really have him speculating about things he didn't see. You know,
No.
he goes to court, he can only talk about what he actually physically saw. And he didn't see the shooting. And you could see the police were right, keeping him away. That makes sense. That's what the police would do. Get out of here. This is the police. That makes sense. But once he's bringing, I don't know.
Well, the police body cam will show that.
Yeah. Well, they've got the evidence. The police have all the evidence. You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's something in there that they don't want people to see, isn't there? If they're not showing it, because if it was all went down as they say, then they should be very happy to show us and say, "Look, here's that."
No.
I don't work that way.
No.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. So.
But what the police did recently, they came out and said they've got all these pedophile things, and his computer is full of child pornography. And I was thinking, I live in a bus. Dezi lives in a bus. Are you telling me that Dezi, living in a bus with his wife and 2 little kids, is going to be watching child porn? Because his wife would freak out. The kids, how could you possibly do it?
Yeah.
It's you know, I mean, you know, you might have something like, say, Instagram, where you've got some, you know, I think the boys call it, you know, the girls showing off their asses. They walk down the streets. This just comes up on your screen. Maybe that. But he's not going to be watching child porn with his kids there.
No, but you're forgetting they tried that. They tried that with the Andrews when Andrews was taken to court as well. They arrested Dezi that day for a historical sex charge and marched him off to the police. And Dezi did not take Andrews to court. We need to clarify that. He had nothing to do with it.
He had nothing to do with it. It was the chiropractor that I've already interviewed, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so he had nothing to do with that. He was just walking across the road. But it seems strange that was 5 years ago, that historical sex charge.
Yeah.
But that disappeared and then it's reappeared again. Anyway, who knows what it is? If we knew what it was, it might make sense, but no one knows.
And obviously they didn't think he had guns, so that obviously if he had guns, they would have been registered. They would have come for the guns. He didn't have guns, no one thought he had a gun. And then they send 10 police officers. 10. I mean, they sent 4 to the trains. 10.
Yeah.
Nothing makes sense, and that's the trouble. When Australians, not all of them. There's this woke, crazy mob. But a good majority of us, the silent majority, common sense is our guide. And if things don't make sense, we just call it out. It sounds like bullshit. It does not make sense. You know, even with the trains, they said they sent 4 cops to do a welfare check on a mature white male. The state does not give a shit about mature white males. They're not going to send cops to give oh, look, we're worried if this mature white male is upset. Well, let's send the police. They don't give a shit. It's maybe if they find him hanging in a tree, they might turn up, but that's about it. So that's just honest. So that didn't make sense, and now this doesn't make sense. And then we've got the other thing everyone forgets about is, I think his name was Stephen in Warwick, who was at Camp Epic. He was dressed like a World War I soldier. He had no weapons at all.
Yeah,
and
they shot him.
His friend. I've interviewed that friend. He was on the thing. They surrounded him. And he said, they're going to kill me. And that didn't make any sense. Nothing makes sense. And that's what Australians are hungering for. Help make sense to us.
I think they think we're silly. Do you think they think we're silly? Yeah.
Yeah.
They might be sort of off the mark, that people can think, you know. They're still allowed to think, I think.
Well, that's why, like at the moment, just going to another issue, the whole country's talking about the tickle thing. And I'm still seeing, as Tom said to me, they're going to, on the What the Fuck Boys, they're going to go nuts about it. They might even get, what's her name? What's the main woman?
Sal
Grover might be going on What the Fuck. And she said, but Tom says he's got girlfriends or that he follows in the arts world who are saying that the tickle is a win for women. How? How is it a win for women? You know?
I think this is all just diversion. There's bigger things happening.
Yeah,
all
I
diversion.
just think there's some
I
people
wonder if
who
it's all
are playing
fake to wake people up. Like, I wonder if it's one of those. Remember, I used to
I
say
don't
that
know.
that story about the magpie and the dog.
yeah.
Yeah, the magpie that got
And I
taken
said that I
away.
thought that was a to wake people up to bureaucratic overreach. I
I
reckon
think it
this
was
is
a release
another.
valve because
Yeah.
I've had people go so angry at that fucking magpie, like, like, oh my god, they took the magpie away. They took their rights away. They don't care. They did. These people are dying
Yeah,
everywhere.
but
They don't care. Magpie.
They're worried about
it's like a
I think
gentle wake up. It's like a gentle
I
wake
think
up.
the other way. I think it was the government going, look, let's give them something to get angry about. You can get angry about that.
Oh
We're
yes,
angry
that's
about
another
it
way of
too.
looking at it, I
And it's
suppose.
a pressure release valve. Because, I had people on the phone to me who've said nothing about anything with COVID, even though they've got people who are vaccinated in their family, screaming down the phone how angry they are about the magpie. And Hoodie said the best thing. He said the bird flu is out. 1 minute they're yelling about the magpie. 2 weeks later they're going, shoot the bird. It's got bird flu.
Do you want to hear? Can I talk about something else just for a minute?
Yeah.
Because something yesterday, Nicola Spurrier. She's our. Do you know
Yeah.
who she is? Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Don't
So she.
touch the ball.
Yeah,
Don't
lovely.
touch the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, she came out to say that she had been hit by a car while she was riding her push bike, and had been very badly injured last October, and had a broken pelvis and a broken rib and a broken finger. And she was talking about how bike riders should be allowed on the roads, and drivers needed to be more careful, and blah 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 blah. So I put in the comments, someone should send this video to Dan Andrews.
Good point. I was thinking that.
Oh my God. People were very rude to me. Very rude.
Really? What were they saying?
Oh, really?
I was
Oh,
cruel. And I
Cruel.
I was cruel. And I was like, what did she fucking expect? What did she expect? Coming on and telling us all about her, naughty car drivers running over bike riders. Fuck me. She just walked right into it. Anyway.
So she's still around. Is she still a politician or a bureaucrat?
Bureaucrat.
Bureaucrat. Yeah, right. That's funny.
Overpaid.
So I interviewed Jay, who got her into court about these issues, and the judge allowed her to come in with 2 armed security guards. And Jay said no one is allowed to bring weapons into the court.
No, you
But
can't take a
the judge
toothpick.
Yeah, but no, they allowed it. So she had 2 armed security guards.
Far
And
out.
the judge said, you've had enough, and then he let her off. He didn't allow Jay to finish his interrogation.
Well, look
Yeah.
what happened with Andrews. They got rid of it before they even started it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, crazy times. And now the boy, but this case here, this is, it's so murky because you don't want to get on the side of we're celebrating those who kill cops. Because forget about cops. These are 2 men who had families. The young guy had dreams. I hate that. This is what I hate about it. I can't condone the killing of anyone, let alone cops.
No.
I just can't.
No.
I wouldn't mind maybe if they hung Fauci, but but apart from the rest,
I'll help. I'm sure Susanna will too. Although I think
this just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make sense. There's
Stephen
something
Morgan,
seriously wrong.
spot on. So.
Yeah.
Nothing makes sense.
The fact that Andrew's not being brought to justice for his crime says a lot about how corrupt our system is. Victoria is so corrupt, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is
know.
literally run by the Sopranos. Yeah.
Well, maybe we need them.
Yeah, maybe. They'd probably be more decent.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to leave it there? Anything else you want to say?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. And
no problem. Thanks for letting me join.
No, thanks for coming on, Michael.
No,
Thanks,
it's
Susan.
really important because we're all being tarred with this thing now. That's
Yep.
what we're all being.
Sovereign
Everywhere we
citizen,
go,
Brush.
people going, sovereign citizens. You a sovereign citizen? You're going.
No,
Ah.
he's never ever said to be a sovereign citizen. Why
No.
would you go into a courtroom if you were a sovereign citizen? You wouldn't go in there.
No, that's
You know?
right.
Never.
No, that's right.
So you wouldn't even take it on. So
No,
yeah,
nothing
and
makes sense.
it
you know?
doesn't.
Yeah. All right. No worries.
Okay,
What
thank you.
songs you want to go out with? Go out, get up thing, and then and the What the F Boys. Apparently Wayne is going to go nuts. He's so pissed off. So
Stay tuned.
stay tuned because
Stay tuned.
I love the What the F Boys, but I really do think that Wayne is an incredible voice in this time, and he's vaccinated, so he's not one of our. I'm saying he's one of us, but he's he's done the vaccination. He's more on their side, and this is the interesting thing. Someone was attacking me today, and I said to them, you know what? There's a difference between us. We wanted to be wrong, and you need to be right. But we're happy to be wrong. But so far, we're not.
Actually, just one more thing. I thought I was watching Neil Oliver and he made a really good comment. He talked about people saying they're scholars. A scholar is somebody who can think. So we are all,
Not regurgitate.
you want a fancy word for it? Instead of thinkers, we're scholars. So let's not forget that. Keep thinking and keep asking and keep questioning despite what's happening.
Yeah,
Exactly,
that's why
yeah.
What the Fuck Boys had that guy from what's his name, the Wasp Files, and that's what he said. Why is it so wrong to ask questions? And Kay, that's all you do. Susanna, that's all you do.
I love
That's all we do,
questions.
we ask questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
I've
is
been
it so
asking
wrong?
questions forever to the point where my husband says, "Oh, that's Kay's book of wacky ideas."
Yeah. Yeah. Great. All right, going out with Freedom Road by the great David Rakuti. Thanks, ladies. See you when you come back.
Bye.
Great voice.
Bye.
Bye.
There's a sign on the highway. There's a fork in the road. A lifetime of lessons learned don't mean nothing, it shows. Armchair doctor, experts making all the rules, selling us their theories while they take us all for fools. And there's nowhere left to hide on that freedom road. Don't tell me what to think, don't tell me how to live on that freedom road. Get your hand out of my pocket, I got no more to give, I got no more to give. There's a cop in the distance behind a big box tree. There's a crime being committed somewhere, but the radar gun's on me. A quiet quarter afternoon, I'm doing 105. Like a fat kid on a seesaw, all tilted to one side. And there's nowhere left to hide, and no one's putting up a fight on that freedom road. Don't tell me what to think, don't tell me how to live on that freedom road. Get your hand out of my pocket, I got no more to give, I got no more to give. just out of school. He tells me that I'm doing wrong, something he could never do. The writing in a textbook ain't no substitute for life. The rules and regulations, they're just dumbing down our minds. And there's nowhere left to hide, and no one's putting up a fight. They're all just waiting round to die on that freedom road. Don't tell me what to think, don't tell me how to live on that freedom road. Get your hand out of my pocket, I got no more to give on that freedom road. Don't tell me what to think, don't tell me how to live on that freedom road. Get your hand out of my pocket, I got no more to give, I got no more to give.